Earth's children play with fire. Galactic firehook, the Vorthak. Dominion's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating humanity's military might. It was underestimating what humans would do when someone threatened their children's playground. When the alien armada arrived at Sol System expecting swift conquest, they found something that made their quantum-enhanced minds recoil in primitive terror, a species that had learned to weaponize stellar fusion not for war, but for fun. Captain Kethvar watched the primitive blue world through his flagship's viewports, mandibles clicking in amusement. Intelligence reported these humans had barely achieved interplanetary travel. Their weapons were chemical explosives and metal projectiles. The conquest would take mere hours. He ordered the fleet forward, unaware that humanity's children were already playing with stars. Commander Rixel Morthdane received the first casualty reports with disbelief. 3 dreadnoughts vaporized, not by missiles or plasma cannons, but by concentrated stellar fire, miniature suns hurled like stones. The humans weren't defending their world with warships. They were playing catch with nuclear fusion, and the Dominion fleet had wandered into their game. Admiral Zethel's quantum brain processed the impossible tactical data. Humans had somehow contained and directed stellar plasma through gravitational manipulation fields. What should have been their most devastating weapons were being used casually. Children's toys scaled up beyond reason. The species that conquered, fire had learned to juggle stars. High above Earth's Pacific Ocean, 12-year-old Nyx Voltaire hung weightless in her family's orbital playground, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that would have made Vorthak scientists weep with envy. The stellar manipulation gauntlets on her wrists hummed with contained power. Miniature gravity wells that could compress hydrogen into burning hearts of light. "Mom, the big ugly ships are back," she called through her comm implant, barely glancing at the massive alien dreadnoughts emerging from hyperspace. Around her, dozens of other children floated in their personal gravity bubbles, each one wielding tools that bent the fundamental forces of reality to their will. Dr. Lyra Voltaire's voice crackled through the quantum link from Luna Station. "Then, show them how Earth's children play, sweetheart. But remember the safety protocols." Nyx rolled her eyes. Safety protocols. As if accidentally creating a black hole was still embarrassing after the incident last summer. She gestured to her playmates, Kaz with his gravitational slingshots, Vera wielding plasma ribbons like luminous serpents, and little Jorik who could split atoms with his bare thoughts. "Formation Delta 7, Nyx commanded with the casual authority of someone who'd been manipulating stellar forces since kindergarten. "Let's give them the welcome show." The children moved with practiced synchronization, their individual gravity fields merging into a complex lattice that stretched across half the solar system. What the Vorthak perceived as humanity's ultimate weapon was actually their equivalent of a neighborhood pickup game of baseball, except the ball was a contained star, and the field stretched from Earth to Mars. Captain Kethavar's flagship registered impossible energy readings as a sphere of pure fusion materialized directly ahead, not launched from any visible weapon platform, but simply willing itself into existence through gravitational manipulation beyond anything in Dominion science. The stellar fire burned with the intensity of a main sequence star, compressed into a space the size of a city block. "Evasive maneuvers!" Kethavar shrieked. But the miniature sun was already moving, guided by the laughing 12-year-old who treated stellar manipulation like tossing a ball to her friends. Nyx threw the contained star in a perfect arc toward Gyu, Kaz, who caught it with his gravitational mitts and immediately began spinning it into a plasma vortex. The stellar material stretched and coiled like molten taffy, temperatures soaring beyond the theoretical limits of Vorthak shielding technology. "My turn," Vera called out, reaching for the spinning starfire with hands that could reshape matter at the quantum level. She pulled the plasma into dancing ribbons that wove between the alien ships like luminous serpents, each tendril containing enough energy to power a civilization for centuries. The Vorthak fleet tried to return fire, their quantum disruptors and antimatter torpedoes seeming pathetically primitive against children who played hopscotch with the building blocks of reality. Jorik, barely 8 years old, looked at an approaching missile with mild curiosity and casually split its atomic structure with a thought. turning deadly ordnance into harmless light patterns. Are they even trying? Kaz wondered aloud, using gravitational fields to compress 3 enemy fighters into a perfect sphere of twisted metal. This is boring. Admiral Zethel watched his fleet being systematically dismantled by what his sensors insisted were juvenile humans engaged in recreational activity. His quantum-enhanced mind, capable of processing thousands of calculations per nanosecond, could not comprehend a species that had given their children the power to manipulate stellar forces as toys. The final insult came when little Jorik grew bored with the one-sided engagement and began teaching the contained star new tricks, splitting it into dozens of smaller suns that danced in complex orbital patterns around the remaining Vorthak ships. Each miniature star sang with gravitational harmonics that resonated through hyperspace itself, creating a celestial symphony that was simultaneously the most beautiful and terrifying thing the invaders had ever witnessed. "Retreat," Admiral Zethel whispered, his voice hollow with the realization that they had encountered not a military force, but a playground where the children of Earth learned to juggle the fundamental forces of creation. As the Vorthak fleet limped toward hyperspace, Nyx caught the dancing stars and carefully extinguished them, following proper safety protocols. The children dispersed to their homes, already planning tomorrow's games. Behind them, space itself still rippled with the echoes of their casual manipulation of forces that could reshape galaxies. The Galactic Council received Admiral Zethel's report in stunned silence. Humanity was quarantined not as a threat, but as an incomprehensible anomaly. A species so far beyond conventional understanding that their children wielded cosmic forces like playground equipment. Earth's children had achieved something no empire ever had: peace through bewildered terror. Years later, when xenoarchaeologists discovered the ruins of the first civilization to achieve stellar manipulation, they found evidence of a species that had spent millennia developing the technology before accidentally destroying themselves with their own power. The ruins bore a haunting inscription in their ancient script: "We thought we had mastered fire." Humanity had learned a different lesson entirely. They hadn't mastered fire. They had befriended it, played with it, and taught their children that the most dangerous forces in the universe were just another toy to be handled with respect, creativity, and proper safety protocols. The galaxy would never be the same, not because humanity had conquered it, but because they had shown it something unprecedented, a species that had grown so far beyond the need for conquest that their children played games with the power of stars, treating the fundamental forces of creation not as weapons of war, but as instruments of joy. In the end, Earth's greatest victory wasn't achieved through superior firepower or tactical brilliance. It was won by 12-year-olds who thought juggling miniature suns was just another way to spend a Tuesday afternoon, and who accidentally terrified an entire galactic civilization into peaceful coexistence simply by existing. The universe had finally met its match. A species that had taught its children to play with fire, and in doing so had set the very stars themselves ablaze with wonder.